This
Good morning,
conference will
everybody.
now be recorded.
I make that 9:33. We're going to start on our session this morning. And this morning, we're going to be looking at social media planning. Thank you for everybody for joining us. There's still, I think, a few more to join us, but I'm sure you'll be able to catch up. This session is being recorded and will appear on our YouTube channel later on today. So if you missed anything or you want to take some more notes, please feel free to go to our YouTube channel. If you go to YouTube, search for Harts Limited, with limited spelt in full, you'll be able to see copies of the recording, along with all the other recordings that have been up there since we started doing this series of webinars back in March last year. We're trying to do 2 webinars per month, and we'll go over what's coming up in the next couple of months as well at the end of this seminar. Don't forget that we have our prize draw for a free strategic planning session. That's open until the 31st of January. So you want to go to our website, just scroll down on the front page and you'll see that you'll be able to click through to be able to enter that prize draw. It's worth well over £700 in free time, so it's well worth going on there, not just for that, but also for the fact that you'll be able to work on your business and get the business that you want and that you actually deserve. Okay, so moving on, we have a quick disclaimer which we have to run through as always. It's the following presentation is produced for general guidance only, and professional advice should always be sought before any transaction is undertaken. Individual circumstances can vary, and therefore no responsibility can be accepted by Harts Limited or any of its affiliates for any action taken or any decision made to refrain from action by attendees of this presentation. Okay, I want to go a quick government support update. What we have is that some local authority grants are out there now, and you've got to check to see whether you can be eligible for them. There is an HMRC government eligibility checker. So if you go to HMR's website, in fact, you can go to our website and click on the link through to the government support site. That'll be able to see if you are eligible for any government support. Local authorities have also announced that there is some more support coming for people affected by COVID. And if you can go to our website and click on the various links. There is a link for the Cheshire East grant application, and there's also a link for the Stockport grant application if you're on their local authorities. If you're not in any of those 2 local authorities, just search for your local authority, click on their website, and any sort of additional support should be available there. Moving to self-assessment and the time to pay. If you have a self-assessment liability of less than £30,000, then you can apply online to spread that over the following 12 months. So you don't have to pay your whole of your self-assessment bill as at the 31st of January. You do have the option of being able to spread that without penalties. They will, however, charge you interest from the 1st of February, but that interest rate is only 2.6% per annum. So if you are struggling for cash flow wise, you do have the opportunity to be able to spread that liability. There are some terms and conditions. If you go to the website, you'll be able to see what they are. You have to make the application yourself. We can't do it for you. It's an online application which should go through. If you struggle to get through, please feel free to phone the Inland Revenue, because there is a dedicated helpline now to help people struggling to pay their tax. And although you might not qualify by the online route, you may well qualify if you just speak to them and ask for a time to pay arrangement. They are being fairly amenable at the moment. I have to say, credit where it's due in relation to HMRC. With all these government support schemes, how they've managed to get these up and running quite quickly and getting the money out to people is a credit to them. So we often criticise HMRC, but this is one occasion where we think they've actually done quite well. The self-employed grant deadline. So if you are self-employed, you've got a self-employed grant deadline must be made by the 29th of January, so by Friday this week. So please make sure you make your 3rd grant claim by the 29th of January. There will be a 4th grant covering from February to April, but they haven't issued any of those yet, any details of that just yet. And if you remember, furlough claims have to be made by the 14th of the following month. So we need to have information from you if we're running your payroll, or if you're running your own payroll, to put the furlough claim in by the 14th of the following month. And finally, the deferred VAT payments. These were due on the 31st of March 2021. So if you remember, last year you had the opportunity to defer 1 quarter's VAT, and the time to pay that is coming up on the 31st of March this year. However, they have now given you the opportunity to extend that as well over the following 11 or 12 months, so you can pay that off in instalments as well. There will be an online application form to be able to do this, but it's not yet up and running. So you need to watch this space. We'll advise you as to when that actually becomes available to you. And if you just keep an eye on our website, we'll get something out to you as well via our mail shots. So that's pretty much it on the government support updates. So what I'm going to do, just before I hand over to Helen, Helen is our marketing expert on social media, and she knows everything about social media. We've worked closely with Helen for the last couple of years or so, last few years, in fact, probably. I don't know how long it's been. Helen will probably fill me in. And we're going to cover off the main areas of where you can use social media to grow your business during lockdown and beyond, and hopefully make more profit. What I'd like to do is just take a very quick poll from you all, and just have a quick look and put your answers into the chat box. Which social media platform do you use the most? Is it LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, or anything else? Just stick it in the chat box so we can just get a general idea of the sort of social media platforms people are using nowadays. So if you could just chuck that into there. This is before business. So if you're using it for business, which one are you using the most? And then it's interesting to know. What is interesting, which I didn't realize, is actually YouTube is the second biggest search platform behind Google. So anyone who's not using YouTube may want to think about doing that, and we'll be covering that off as well. So I can see we've got plenty of replies in already. We've got some LinkedIns, we've got some YouTubes, and what else have we got? Let's have a look. We have Facebook first, then Instagram, then YouTube, Twitter and LinkedIn. Instagram, somebody says put none. Twitter and LinkedIn, YouTube, LinkedIn, none, LinkedIn, and LinkedIn. So we've got quite a bit of LinkedIn for business. So it's interesting to see what's actually going to be. So what I'm going to do now is hand over to Helen. I'm going to make Helen the presenter, and then she can start with her presentation. So just bear with me 1 second. Okay, Helen, you are now the presenter, so over to you.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to share my screen, so just bear with me while I just fire up my presentation. So I know you're all on mute, so I'm sure Stephen will tell me if you can't see properly, but please just make any comments in the chat, and we'll try and cover off all questions at the end. Hopefully I will answer some of them as I go along. So we're going to talk about using social media in business, and that's the agenda that we're going to go through. Realise that we've got till about 10:15, so I might fly through some of these, and but there's an opportunity if there's questions at the end, if anyone can say a little bit later, or by all means give me contact me after the meeting, and I'll try and help you the best I can. So just start off with who I am. So my name's Helen Stott. My business is Marketing Doris. The avatar on the right hand side is my alter ego, Doris, and what I find is that you know, I work as a part-time marketing director, on-demand marketing manager, consultant, coach. I don't really mind what people call me, and quite often people just call me Doris. Part of what I do is I do manage social media channels on behalf of clients, but that's just part of the marketing aspects that I cover. I've got a CIM qualification. I've been working over 20 years dedicated marketing, and I've been working 14 years under the banner of Marketing Doris. The industry experience I have is covered there, so pretty much across the board, and I do work across B2B and B2C channels, which is business to business and business to consumer. So why should you use social media? It is a great way of communicating to your target market. It's as simple as that. You know, it can be used as a sales tool, it can be used as a promotional tool, but importantly, it should only be part of your marketing mix. And what I mean by that is that there will be other aspects of marketing that you do. And that might be things like this, a webinar, it could be newsletters, it could be advertising. There are so many different marketing tools that you can use. So see social media tools as just part of that. I'm going to focus a lot on the organic use of social media today. There is obviously advertising available on each of the platforms. We won't have time to be able to cover all of that off today. So I'm really going to focus on the organic side. And I actually do feel that it's important to get the fundamentals right before you start on some advertising campaigns anyway, if that's the route that you go down. And you know, and for many, advertising may not be in your budget. It may not be appropriate for your target market. So I won't focus on that today. And so social media can also be targeted by industry, by topic. It can be done geographically, whether or not that's on a local basis or worldwide. I get asked who can use social media, and somebody's already mentioned today that there are some restrictions that they have from their institute. So we'll cover some of that off anyway. But actually, all businesses of all sizes can use social media, and people will use it in different ways. I think it's important to actually identify the right social media channel that is right for your business, for your industry, and your target market. So do a little bit of research first. I mean, the easiest thing to do is to set up a social media channel. It's actually that doesn't take any time at all. The important thing is the work that you do afterwards. I've just mentioned there, I mean, all of them can be used for both B2B and B2C. I would say that LinkedIn is primarily business, though the use of that has changed somewhat over the last year or so. When do you use it? You know, whatever you do on social media, whichever channel you use, just please be consistent, regularly update or post. And the key word in social media is social. So interact. Don't just broadcast out messages, but actually interact with people on social media as well. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how to use social media. And I think the first thing that I would recommend is that you have a strategy and that this is in line with your business objectives. And you know, look at what you want to achieve from using social media. So it could be about raising your brand. It could be about developing your brand. It could be from purely a sales tool or customer service. Do have a plan together. You know, that might seem quite formal, but if you devise a campaign or a content calendar and just use that as a framework, it will give you a little bit of guidance about how and when to post. So on all of the social media channels, there is the opportunity to have a bio or profile. Each of the channels has a slightly different name for this, but do complete those. It's usually quite easy to do. They make it very easy in terms of taking you step by step. So do complete those. Definitely put a photograph on there. I would say use a photograph that's relevant for that social media channel. So, you know, we're using it for business, so use an appropriate business image. And, you know, as much as you might like that picture of you on the beach with a pint, is that really the image that you want to portray to your target market? There are also opportunities to put in cover images on your profile. Please add those in as well. It just gives a little bit extra information. You can have a look, for example, on any of the Harts company LinkedIn profile, or if you look at Stephen's profile or Andy's, you'll see that they've got a cover image on there. It just gives a little bit of information about the business and contact details. On some social media channels, particularly Facebook business pages, you can get the option to add in additional buttons. So that could be contact me or go to the website or other information like that. On all of the channels, you can build up your followers by following relevant accounts. So this could be a mix of your customers, suppliers, associates, industry experts. It could be influencers, news channels, perhaps those accounts that have a local and regional focus. And one of the questions that we had earlier was a little bit of nervousness, because if you follow your customers, does that then mean that you're giving your customer list to people who are following? Potentially, yes, but actually, if you're also following lots of other businesses as well, then it may not be relevant. You'll know who your customers are, but actually, it may not be that obvious to your competitors which one are. And actually, as somebody said, who's got time to go through somebody else's channel? On LinkedIn, it is possible to change your settings so that your contact list is private. It may be that actually, if you're connected with somebody, that they will then be able to see any mutual contacts that you have in common. So there are a few things that you can look at on that side. Use social media as a way to direct traffic to your website. Your website is your shop window. That's really where all your information about your business is. So, it's always important that if you're perhaps using part of a link, part of an article on the web, on social media, is then if you put your website link directly to the article page, it then helps drive traffic there. And there are some tools that you can use to help you schedule posts. Now, some of these will have free versions available. I'll try and give you information about sort of free tools throughout. There are lots, on the market. I use Hootsuite, but also I know that Buffer, TweetDeck, and actually Facebook has their own inbuilt scheduling posts. So it's good to try and check those out as well. And importantly, keep monitoring and measuring the performance. If actually you're doing a lot of work on social media, but you're not getting the results that you're looking for, then my advice is look at what you're doing. It may be you need to do some tweaks, or if it's just not working, then don't use it. And if you've got a dormant account because you feel it's not right anymore for you, then stop using it, but actually delete that account, because there's nothing worse than going to an account and seeing that the last time something was posted was 3 years ago. So just a few points on how not to use it. Please don't buy followers. You will get sort of notifications from organisations saying you can buy X number of followers. Please don't do that. They won't be genuine, and there'll be a lot of spam in there, and it's just not worth it. I would say grow your followers organically, and what you're looking for is quality over quantity. Again, I keep harping on about this, so I apologise, but actually I don't apologise. If you're setting up accounts and not using them, just delete it. Please don't ignore interactions, positive, negative, or otherwise. Just try and respond to those. You will see, and I think that we've all probably had experience of this, Twitter is used by a lot of brands with their customer services, and it's a good way of getting in touch with a company if you're struggling in any other way. Actually, there's some very innovative work and marketing going on with people's customer service accounts, and it is good. Sometimes you will get a negative, somebody saying, "I ordered something, it didn't arrive." Actually, I think people expect that those things happen. It's the way in which it is handled, and quite often that can be a really good marketing tactic in itself. Try not to be on every platform at once. So, try and do one well, and then if you feel that that's working, then look at another. But rather than just trying to do everything, it's just too much. That's the same with overuse. Again, some of this might come down to our time we've got available, but you don't have to be on it 24/7, and I wouldn't recommend you do that anyway. There are certain social media platforms that hashtags work really well. So Instagram, Twitter are very good for hashtags, and actually LinkedIn sort of recommend that you add I think probably about 3 on theirs. So on Instagram, there's no limit, and because there's no limit on the number of characters, some people go completely and utterly crazy with how many hashtags. So I would just limit those. You don't need to have so many. Just for people's awareness, hashtags can be used as a way of filtering or a way of finding sort of a particular topic area, and that could be a region, it could be a conversation piece. So there's lots of different ways to use hashtags. Use images on your social media. It's really important to do that. I think that it adds a little bit of interest as well. And try not to lose focus of your objective. So it is worth just keep going back to what you'd originally wanted to achieve from your social media channel, and measure it. So if you're not measuring it, you're not going to know what's going on. I often get asked about, I've set these social media channels up, but I don't know what to say. I never really have an issue with knowing what to say, and some people who know me well will testify. But I'll give you some examples. So, it could be that you talk about some company news, some positive, information about perhaps new hires, new contacts. Sorry, I meant to say, new contracts, not new contacts. Any wins or successes that you've had, any developments in the business. You could perhaps post some links to testimonials or case studies, and on LinkedIn there is actually a space to include or to have recommendations on a personal basis. But if your company has received a testimonial and that adds value towards a particular service, you may want to include that. You could be industry specific, so if you're commenting on something that's happening that's quite topical, that's always of interest. Be interactive. So, people might ask for opinions, so you could respond to that. You'll find on many of the social media channels that people ask for recommendations. So does anybody know? That's a good way of introducing perhaps your contacts, but it's also a good way that you may be introduced as well. And again, add some images, relevant images to your post. So what I would suggest with that is either use your own images. So these are ones that you've either bought or that you've taken yourself. There are license-free sites available, and I've mentioned two there, Unsplash and Pixabay. Please don't just take an image from a Google search. It may be somebody's image. There'll be licensing rules around there. You could get yourself into bother. So just be a little bit careful with the images that you use. And you can also create your own sort of graphics. And there's a fabulous site online. Again, it's free to use. There are paid versions called Canva, and absolutely amazing tool, and really can add some interest to your social media posts using that. So who should be responsible for social media? And that might be a decision that you make by social media channel or by function. So whether or not it's can be used as a marketing tool, whether it's for customer service reasons, as I've mentioned before. I think there might be just a little bit of feedback. I don't know if somebody wants to just mute themselves if you aren't already. As I say, customer services use it particularly well on Twitter, I've seen. It could be used as a sales tool or management, but whatever you decide to do, what I would suggest is that you give guidance. So give guidance on the tone of voice, what you want them to do, what you want to achieve, and just make sure actually that your IT and HR policies around social media are actually in line with that guidance, or vice versa, just so there's no conflicting messages out there. And I think somebody mentioned before that actually they have restrictions from not sure if it's their parent company or their institute that they're part of. So there will always be some guidelines, and some will be stricter than others. So it is always worth just checking that out, that you are using social media in a way that is compliant. I'm going to go through each of the social media channels and give you some tips, and then there'll be opportunity for some questions at the end. So with LinkedIn, as I've said before, that it is a business platform primarily, and it's a good way of networking. I suppose particularly more so while we're working remotely. And what I would just say to people, and is that I always say to clients that use LinkedIn in the same way that if you're in a professional networking room, and that just makes people think about it in a slightly different way. So have your photograph, your business photograph, visible, and there is some recommendations by people who've studied this in great detail about when is a good time to post. So be consistent. I think the optimum times that people say for LinkedIn is weekdays, particularly Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Maybe that's because Monday we're so busy, perhaps looking through our inboxes, and Friday we've almost switched off a little bit for the weekend. LinkedIn is used at the weekends, but actually weekdays seem to be the best for posting. And again, sort of between 11 and 1 and 5, and that just might tie in quite nicely with people's patterns of how they work. So perhaps they'll have a look at it late morning, over lunch, or after they finish work. So on LinkedIn, there are two elements, or two key elements of it. You have your company page, and it's important that actually you can let people know that work for you that you do have a company page. It could be that they can encourage them to link their personal page, so it actually looks like you've got the number of employees on the company page. But it also means that when you do post something on your company page, they're notified, and that they can then share that with their networks if they choose to. And invite your contacts to follow your company page. There's a great facility now for admins on the company page that allow you to invite X number of contacts per month, and then that credit actually then starts again at the beginning of the next month. So it's a good way to kind of organically build up your followers on your company page. From a personal point of view, as I said before, link to the company page. You'll find that you've linked to it successfully when the logo actually appears beside the name. There are industry and geographic groups that you may want to become part of, and that might be by, I might be interested in some marketing groups, or it might be that I'm looking at groups within my area, within Cheshire. I'm more over towards Warrington side, so perhaps business groups this side would be more of interest to me. And actually give testimonials or ask for them. It's always a good way of being able to sort of showcase those on your company, your profile page. Just going to move on to Twitter. I've mentioned it a couple of times for customer services. It's also good for sort of breaking news, and quite often, if something's happened, the news channels don't always have that information straight away. And so I if something's happened and I kind of want to know what's going on, I'll head to Twitter, because I do find that seems to be more up to date than others. It's great for interaction, so you could ask questions to get engagement, to create that to create that sort of interaction engagement. You could create Twitter polls, and again use hashtags. There is a limit with Twitter with how many characters you can use within a post, and when you are posting, it actually just tells you how many characters you've got left. That includes, by the way, any hashtags, spaces, and any links that you might include. Again, stay consistent with your posting. Monday to Friday seems to be the optimum time for Twitter, and mid-morning is very good. It also recommends actually that when you've got an interaction on a post, that you just try and respond to those sort of within the first 2 or 3 hours. That just helps with from an engagement point of view. So Facebook, this is Facebook for business, as opposed to, I suppose many people may have a personal Facebook account. To have a business page, you actually do need to have a personal profile, and that's not necessarily shown on your business page, but you just need to go through that step of having a personal profile, and then you can create a business page from there. If you are an employee of a business and they've already got a business page set up, then there are different page roles that you can have within the business page. so that you don't actually then post as your personal name, but you will post as the business, and they can go from editor up to administrator. Once again, ask questions, inspire engagement. You know, as I keep saying, social media, the keyword is social. If you post content that is actually can inspire sort of more lengthy comments, that's always good. Again, stay consistent. It's a bit slightly different with Facebook. Thursday to Sunday seems to be the optimum times. For some reason, Tuesday's not a great day on social media, on Facebook, not sure why. And, you know, they're saying that if you are going to use Facebook, because of the algorithms that are in the back part of the social media channel, then do a minimum of 3 times a week. And there is actually Facebook video, and so you can be live, or you can post videos on there as well. Instagram is very much image focused, and so this will be great, particularly for some businesses where they have you know, products that are very visually pleasing. Actually, don't have to be necessarily pleasing. It's, I suppose, that's in the eye of the beholder. But you know, it is very image based, and so stay consistent again with your posting. They recommended Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Again, times seem to be around sort of lunchtime-ish or sort of early evening, and post at least 3 times a week. Now, Instagram doesn't have the ability for you to actually post a link within a post, which is quite bizarre. What you can do, or what people do to get around this, is that in your bio you can include a website link. So actually you could change that website link so it goes directly to a particular page on your website, and you can change that as many times as you want. Or you can actually create a landing page creator. So you would click on the link in the bio, but it would almost take you to another page which has many different links on there, and that could be again to different pages on your website. If you're selling products, it could go to particular product pages. And I've mentioned one in there called Linktree, but again, there'll be other tools available. So Instagram's good for competitions, and there are just lots around at the moment. You know, people are really making the most of this lockdown period. So there are some rules to follow in terms of competitions, and you know, I can give you some guidance on that separately, but it is important just to follow those. With Instagram, if you want to repost something, so if you see an image that you want to share out to your followers, you have to use an external tool called a reposting tool, and I've mentioned one there, excuse me, called Regram. There is an etiquette that you actually include the handle of the original poster. So when you use something like Regram, it will automatically appear on the bottom, almost like as a watermark at the bottom of the image. But I always include it in the actual post as well. Instagram, as I mentioned before, is very good for hashtags, and you know, you can use as many as you want. But again, what I would just say is just use some caution on there and only use relevant hashtags. Engage with any interactions, ideally within the first hour after you post. And with Instagram, you can use stories, and so they appear for 24 hours. They appear in a circle above the profile, and they can actually be then saved as highlights, which again will appear in a circle, but underneath your main profile name. So there are other social media channels around. In fact, there are just hundreds. I think somebody mentioned TikTok before, which is, I think, really came into its own over lockdown. You know, I think some of these social media channels will appeal more to certain age groups and or certain demographics. So actually, if your target market is to a particular age group or a particular demographic, then that could be something that that you could consider. So Pinterest is one that I've just mentioned here. It's good for business to consumer. It's great for kind of building up mood boards, and it's very, again, much image based. YouTube, Stephen mentioned that before, as a great way of including videos, but also as a good search engine. And you can actually embed your videos from YouTube channel onto your website, which is great, because actually when people watch it on your website, if they then click, they can see it in the full screen, or they can then head over to your YouTube channel to have a look at what other videos that you have on there. Try and use meaningful titles and tags within your YouTube videos. So just spend the time that when you upload something, is then change the titles and put as much information in there as possible, because that will help from the search engine point of view. And just a reminder, actually, if you're not already, just do follow the Harts YouTube channel. They've got lots of their webinars on there from last year, and there's lots of really good information. So it's really worth following that. So I'm going to draw breath for a minute and ask if there's any questions.
Okay, thank you very much indeed, Helen. That's a whistle-stop tour through all the various social media channels, and I know that we're using LinkedIn and YouTube extensively at the moment. So we've got to practice what I preach. So there are 33 people on this webinar at the moment. It would be great if you could all subscribe, if you've not already done so, all subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you just go to YouTube, search for Harts Limited and just click on subscribe, that'll be brilliant, because then you get notified of every time a video gets posted up there, and also a webinar as well, because we post up these webinars. So if you could do that for us, that will be much appreciated. Going to questions. We've got more of a comment from Elizabeth on Twitter. Is there a shortcut for cutting the number of characters when using a website address? Sorry, it's a question.
Yes, if you go to Google, you can actually type in shorten website address or URL, and you'll get some different options that come up there. And again, there's a lot that you can use that are free to use. So yeah, great question.
And can you use or post on Instagram on your desktop, or is it on your phone only?
Yeah, no, it is only on your phone, unfortunately, but actually some of the scheduling tools that I mentioned before do have the ability to post to Instagram from there.
Okay, and how do you delete a Twitter account?
I would say that you would probably need to go into the profile section, and it will be in the settings within there. They might hide it because they might not want you to delete it, but there will be an option within there.
Brilliant. Has anybody else got any questions that they want to ask? We've got Adam saying, if you're a bit more tech savvy, you could use an Android emulator on PC and download Instagram and post via that on your PC. You lost me there.
Thanks, Adam. Thanks, Adam. I might try that. Thank you.
That's a bit too techy for me. Anybody else got any questions? He's saying basically it does simulate a phone on your PC. Has anybody else got any questions, or if you feel you just want to unmute yourself and do a shout out? We're always trying to make these webinars interactive as possible. You just need to click on your microphone button when you scroll down onto the screen and just make it turn green, and then you can just ask a question. Simon Burgess, any tips on using WhatsApp?
Yeah, I mean, you know, WhatsApp has been a great tool. It's been around for a number of years. I think some people perhaps use it personally to connect with family and friends and have individual groups. So there are, I have noticed that people are using it from a customer service point of view about putting that their WhatsApp chat out there. So yeah, I think it was just a case it needs to be monitored. I think that people, when they use WhatsApp, they almost expect almost an instantaneous answer. So I think that it would be good for a customer service point of view, but only if it's monitored and managed. It may be that you want to set some guidelines on there to say that it's manned between certain time periods, just so that you've not got somebody getting quite upset because you've not answered a message at 2 o'clock in the morning. But you know, if you clearly say that actually this is monitored between, you know, 8:30 and 5 o'clock or whatever your hours may be, then that could be a really useful tool to use.
Great, thank you very much. Anybody else got any questions on that they want to ask before we move on?
Okay, well, I've just put I'm available on social media. Even if you just put Marketing Doris into any of the social media channels, you will find me. So if you've got any other questions, I'd be happy to answer those. I'll share my screen now.
Right, thank you. And I'm just going to make myself presenter, and just want to quickly run through. As I mentioned before, we do have some webinars coming up, which you can book on. They're all free, and they're not just for clients, they're for anybody who might be interested, so please get the word out there. On the 9th of February, in a couple of weeks' time, we're doing one on pensions and investments, so we're going to look at pension planning. We're going to look at pre-year end tax planning, making use of allowance, so on. On the 23rd of February, we're looking at funding and borrowing. So what is the mortgage market like? What's the problems and issues in the commercial mortgage and domestic mortgage, business borrowing, lending, and so on? What's the market like? And then on the 9th of March, we have our budget update webinar. Now, the budget is actually on the 3rd of March. So we've left it a few days afterwards, because what we always tend to find is the devil is in the detail, and it always seems to creep out a few days later. So rather than doing it on the day or the day after, we're going to leave it a few days, make sure we get all the information that comes out, all the press releases that come out from the Inland Revenue. And so on the 9th of March, we'll be holding our budget webinar. We do have another couple planned after that. The dates to be confirmed. One will be on strategic planning. We have an ebook which is going to be made available to you. You can either download it or request a hard copy on strategic planning. And then we're going to have another group discussion. We had one towards the end of last year where we invited business owners just to have a chat about business, how business is affecting them. If you'd like to be involved in that, please feel free to drop me a line. My details are on our website, and feel free to say, yes, we'd like to be involved. It just means being on a group discussion, much the same as like question time, and we'll just ask a load of questions, or we can have kind of a general discussion amongst business owners, and that tends to go down very well. What we'd also like is some feedback on all the webinars that we've done so far. So if you could drop me an email, my details are on our website, and let us know what you think about the webinars so far. We'll happily take some testimonials, and we can, as long as you're happy, we can use those testimonials as well on the work that we've been doing since March last year when COVID hit and we had to move everything online. That would be much appreciated. And likewise, if you've got any suggestions for any future webinars as well, which you'd like to see, we can always put those on. Watch this space. We've got some exciting stuff coming up over the next 6 months or so, and we'll be able to get those to you via our mail shots and stuff going up on our website. But thank you all very much for joining us this morning. Thank you, Helen, for a very informative discussion and presentation on the use of social media. I know I've got some points here to try and work on as well over the next few days, and make sure we work on our LinkedIn account. And if anyone's got any questions for Helen, again, drop me a line or go to Helen directly. I'm sure she'll be able to answer your questions. But thank you very much indeed for joining us this morning, and have a good day.
Thank you.